So you're a new voice actor and you're thinking, I want to get started on Fiverr.com or I want to get started on VoiceBuddy. And you're like, man, I just need to get some work. There's nothing wrong with that. These sites are great places to get your first job and just see what it's like doing a paid voiceover gig. However, there are some things you need to be aware of when you're dealing with these types of sites. I will restate that these are all my opinions, guys. And you should be aware that in this industry, this voice acting industry, there are more opinions than there are voice actors, it feels like, because everybody has their own ideas about what's right and what's not right, where you should be, where you shouldn't be, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. I try my best not to tell anybody what they have to do because I'm not your boss, I'm not your mom, I'm not your dad. So before we go into these points of things you should be aware of and be careful of when dealing with these platforms, when you go into voiceover, even if it's a side gig, it is your business. This is not your friend's business. This is not your random person on Reddit telling you about voice acting business. This is not my business. It's your business. You are a business owner. You're a sole proprietor or LLC or S-Corp or however you decide to register that shit, which means you get to make all of the decisions related to how you run your business. It comes with all the risks as well, but do not listen to anybody online, including me, tell you something and you're like, oh shit, I can't do it. Okay? Unless you can reconcile that with how it fits into your bigger plan and then making a very educated decision based on those factors, okay? Fiverr.com was one of the first freelance sites that I actually got booked work on. I'm on Voice123 and Voice.com. I was on VoiceBunny, VoiceRealm, and VoiceJungle, and these, for lack of a better word, shitty-ass sites that basically treat voice actors as dogs, for a lesser term. Again, this is my opinion, but I've been on all of them. And so, again, this is my perspective, and I hope to give you guys some ideas of how to approach them and incorporate them or remove them from your voiceover career. The first point I want to mention, and to be honest with you, I really think this is the big one. And I'm starting off with it first because it can make or break your future potential earnings, okay? And that is something called in perpetuity usage. In perpetuity usage. In perpetuity means forever and ever. All across the universe. In voiceover, when a client books you for a job, they are paying you for a few things. They're paying you for your session time, the session fee as they call it, and that covers, your operating costs for you to walk into your booth or your closet or whatever, turn on your microphone and record. It's paying for your time, and it's also paying for, your equipment. The second rate you'll charge is a per minute, per word, per second, some kind of per. Will be applied especially for longer form narration like corporate narration, e-learning, audiobooks. These tend to be charged per word. Commercial, not so much, and we'll talk about that in just a second when we talk about usage. But usually, if you're on something like Fiverr.com, you'll be charging a per word rate, per 100 words, per 50 words, per 300 words, whatever you decide to break it down as, okay? The third thing you're going to charge for is something called usage. And usage basically gives the client the license to use your voiceover in either a broadcast or non-broadcast situation. Broadcast means that it's paid media. Paid meaning there's money that's putting it in front of consumers' eyes. You'll see this on TV. You'll see it on terrestrial radio. You'll see it on digital radio like Spotify, Pandora, something like that. You'll see it on CTV, like connected TV, like Apple TV. You'll also see it on OTT, which is over the top. So basically anything that is paid and has money behind it is called broadcast. Broadcast is the dangerous one. I am lucky. I'm lucky because I started on Fiverr. I didn't know what in perpetuity was. Conflict category is a consumer category where products are being marketed. For example, you have automotive, cars, trucks, whatever. Automotive, you have quick service restaurants like McDonald's, Popeyes, Jimmy John's. You'll have ready to drinks or just drinks. You'll have Starbucks, Coca-Cola. I don't know. I'm just trying to throw as many examples that pop into my mind right now. You'll have something like pharmaceuticals. You'll have real estate, mortgages, financial, insurance. The list goes on and on and on. Technology. In particular, technology can be broken down into computers, laptops, smartwatches, etc. All of these categories are what we call conflict categories. My layman understanding of a conflict is essentially if I voice for Honda and I have a broadcast commercial, like a national TV commercial, for example, I cannot record for any other auto manufacturer if they request exclusivity. Exclusivity means they want my voice only for their brand. Does that make sense? So if Honda has booked me under an exclusivity clause, that means that I cannot voice for any other automotive manufacturer. However, let's imagine that Honda did not book me for exclusivity. It's non-exclusive. That means I can voice for Honda, and then let's say Ford comes over and says they want me to voice for them. Ford also doesn't want exclusivity. Technically, I can voice for both of them. However, if Ford says, hey, we want exclusivity on our commercial, but last month or last year or 3 years ago, I voiced for Honda and that spot, that commercial is still running on national TV. Well, I can't voice for Ford, even if the Honda job was 3 years ago, if that's how long the usage was for, the license. In perpetuity will screw you over if you don't understand how this works. When we talk about usages on Fiverr and Voices.com and also Voice Jungle, Voice Realm, Voice Bunny, these sites were, I'm gonna say are, and it's a caveat because Fiverr has improved, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But in the past, these sites were notorious for letting clients post jobs with in perpetuity usage. And we're talking about in perpetuity broadcast, which means if you voiced for Apple or did a cool commercial for Toyota or did a cool commercial for Allstate Insurance, and they paid you whatever they paid you, I don't know, $1,000, $5,000, throw a number, it doesn't matter. You voiced that, and it could be 20 years ago. But if it was in perpetuity, you cannot voice for a competitor who's asking for exclusivity. You can't do it. And this is where I think I got really lucky because I just had a sense that, because I actually got approached by Toyota, I got approached by a tech company I'm not gonna mention, but I had big companies reaching out to me on Fiverr. And it just didn't sit right with me. The rates weren't good. I basically felt like they knew what they were asking for. And I just had a sense like, hey, this is not what I want to do. Later, I found out about in perpetuity and how that impacts a career. But this is the point that I'm trying to make to you guys. Many people who get started on these platforms, you don't know shit about shit. You barely know how to use your fucking microphone. You know what I'm saying? You're just starting out. Somebody's throwing $1,500 at you for a TV commercial for, I keep using Honda, but any company, let's use Honda. You voice for Honda for $1,500 and you like go and run into your spouse or your significant other and say, I got $1,500 for voicing 15 words. And you're like, holy shit, you guys are both cheering and jumping in the kitchen. But you did that shit for in perpetuity. Fast forward, you're 3 years into your career. Your career's taken off, you've landed a regional agent, you've got coaching under your belt, you're improved, people are booking you, and you're feeling really good about yourself. Your agent sends you an audition for Toyota. And that shit is union, okay? Not non-union, union. This is not a discussion about union and non-union. That's a whole different video. Union rates for automotive commercials, dog, we're talking, that shit's huge. However, they often usually come with exclusivity. And they want exclusivity for a year or for 13 weeks or for 3 years. Whatever the term is, they're gonna ask you for exclusivity. In that Honda job you did for $1,500 3 years ago, now has come back to bite you in the ass. Because even though Toyota or your agent's giving you that audition, you can't do it. And that's where many people on Fiverr who decide to work, and I use Fiverr, but it could be any of these sites, including Voices.com, because they're notorious for throwing out in perpetuity shit, which I fucking hate. This is where new people have a hard time transitioning off of these sites to agents because they've basically pigeonholed themselves in these high conflict areas. They've voiced for automotives. They've voiced for food restaurants. They've voiced for technology or insurance. And they did it under in perpetuity. And they've essentially removed themselves from competing for these very, very lucrative jobs. And these lucrative jobs typically come from agents or managers. Guys, never, ever, 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 ever agree to in perpetuity for any broadcast work, even if it's just a social media campaign, unless you can justify that the cost of that spot running until you die, if they pay you $100,000 for a McDonald's commercial for in perpetuity usage, is $100,000 now worth it to you compared to the possibility to book multiple fast food restaurant jobs over the course of your career, okay? And that's just an extreme example. If no company is gonna offer you $100,000 non-union for in perpetuity, they're just not gonna do it because they can find somebody else who's gonna be a sucker and do that shit for less. If they try to give you in perpetuity usage and say, hey, we want it forever, This is where your negotiation is going to have to come in. You're going to have to tell them, no, I can't do it in perpetuity. However, I'm more than willing to negotiate usage with you. If a year is too expensive, let's look at 3 years, maybe 5, even 10. There has to be an end date on it though. I'm quoting an agent, Vince Labica from DPN. It's an agency in LA. And he stated it very well. If you're going to negotiate with a client who wants in perpetuity, just give them like 10 years, but then discount each year for less, okay? The longer they get usage, the less they pay per year. And that's a fair way to negotiate that stuff. Again, you're earlier in your career, you're probably not going to be in those positions very often, especially if you're not working in commercial. If you're working in animation and video games, you got other things to worry about. But as it relates to commercial, you always need to negotiate off of in perpetuity. Take that out of the contract. And also be careful with exclusivity. Exclusivity isn't necessarily bad, but understand that if you do an exclusive commercial, like currently I have a Jimmy John's spot running for 3 months. I've already received 3 different auditions for fast food restaurants. However, I'm under exclusivity for Jimmy John's, which means I can't do those auditions. I can't say I missed out, but the exclusivity rate that they're paying you to basically say, hey, don't voice for our competitors, has to be able to make up for the money that you might have earned had you booked the other jobs. Is this all making sense to you guys? I'm putting this first and it's very long, but it's so important. It's so important. Like I said, I'm very lucky not to have done anything stupid like that, but I do know some voice actors who did. And the worst thing you can do, besides take yourself out of the running for the job, is do something in perpetuity. Pretend that you didn't do it in perpetuity, voice for the competitor, and then find out that you actually have a spot running with your voice on their competitor. Now you're into legal troubles. Don't put yourself in these positions, guys. The second thing you need to be careful of, this really relates to Fiverr. However, it can also extend to voices.com and Voice123. Not so much Voice Bunny, Voice Realm, and Voice Jungle. I hate them so much. I don't know. Can you guys tell? I really don't like those 3 sites. When you're on Fiverr, especially when you're trying to get those stars and that social proof to get your ranking from level 1, level 2, and top rated seller, you need to over-ask the client for information. And this is important because clients will often throw a script at you. No, buyer. I'll call them buyers because we're talking about Fiverr here. Buyers will throw a script at you with little to no instruction and say, record this. And you're going to do your best college try and give them something, and they're going to be dissatisfied with it maybe. And then they're going to ask for a revision. You're going to do the revision off of their shitty directions or redirection, and then they say it's not good enough. Now, this can go on forever. Will they pay for other revisions? I don't know, but early on for me, I did not ask enough information. Several clients were disappointed with what they got. And it wasn't so much a performance problem. They thought I could do something that I couldn't do. Or they expected something from me that isn't really my thing. Like one client in particular wanted me to go like super deep. And like they thought my voice was deeper than it actually is. And I went as deep as I possibly could. I did my best Barry White impression. And they were like, can you go deeper? I'm like, no. And they were like, well, we need you to go deeper. And I'm like, well, my voice is as low as it can go. I don't know what else you want me to do. And they're like, oh, we're not satisfied. Oh, cancel the order. Cancellations will fucking kill you, bro. Like seriously, like at least in the short term. And so they canceled on me. And it was literally the only cancellation I've ever had in my time when I was on Fiverr. And it was only because I didn't ask clarifying questions before they placed the order. When you go and make a gig on Fiverr, if you are on Fiverr or trying to get on Fiverr, you can add questions as the last step of the gig creation process. You can say, hey, do you want to ask any questions? True, false, a multiple choice, or fill in the blank. And use all of the spots they give you to ask any questions you have. Hey, which part of my demo are you looking for me to do? Like, give me the timestamp. Let me know so I know exactly what it is. Did you want a live session? Okay, well, hey, if you need a live session, you need to contact me first. I only offer 2 revisions, and my revisions take 48 hours, okay? Because if you don't tell them that, they expect the revision to come real quick. You need to be clear about everything related to how you're going to turn this job around to them. So much so that, and this is actually the added plus point here, you want to make it so complicated to place an order with you, within reason, that you will weed out the bad buyers. Bad buyers know newbie sellers when they see them. Because there's some people they're really looking for new sellers so they can bogart you and basically get the voiceover for free and then cancel the order. Those people exist. So you want to make it as difficult as possible for these people to do that. And it covers your ass when they decide to cancel. Fiverr can see you had all these questions asked, and they answered the questions in some way. And so there was an expectation set. The client knows they only get 2 revisions. They don't want to pay for a third? Well, they're shit out of luck. And you put that in your thing. Hey, I'm only doing 2 free revisions or 1 free revision. You got to pay $25 for the next one. The more you can weed out the bad sellers through all these questions, the happier your Fiverr life will be. Number 3, sticking with Fiverr because that seems to be the buzzword. And that's where most voice actors are going to try to get started. Fiverr has a stigma that is negative in the industry. To be honest with you, and this is just, again, my opinion, I don't think Fiverr deserves as much hate as it gets, especially in 2025. The industry still thinks of Fiverr as this place where people can come and pay $5 for a voiceover for in perpetuity usage. And to a certain extent, I understand, especially during the pandemic, you had so many new people in this industry who were just trying to make a quick buck, and they just put a microphone in front of their face and decided to record 1,000 words for $5. It happened. It was a real thing. I understand why people in the industry who had been in for a while and went the traditional route, I say traditional loosely, but they went the traditional route with their agents and stuff, they turned their nose up at Fiverr. Fast forward to 2025, the pandemic's over. Fiverr has gone so far to make the platform a better place for voice actors. And the biggest change they made was actually in the usage. And I was one of the people spearheading this. I talked to Fiverr quite a few times about taking off in perpetuity. They shouldn't be doing it. And I believe it was 2023 or 2024, they finally added the option to limit usage to 1 year broadcast and 1 year non-broadcast. If you're making a gig, always put 1 year broadcast, 1 year non-broadcast. We're not going to talk about rates. I'm not going to tell you what to put for your rate, but I will say, make there be a time limit on that usage. The problem is people who hate Fiverr either have never used Fiverr, they don't know about the platform, and they're parroting what other people have said. I know people who are very well established, have agents, have managers, and are on the front page of Fiverr, and they are killing it on Fiverr still. And this is going to lead into point number 5 about doing what's best for you, and I'll talk more detail about that and kind of give you a little pep talk. But you have to understand that the industry is not going to look favorably at you being on Fiverr. I was on Fiverr, and I was a top-rated seller. I was a Fiverr Pro, and I was charging some of the highest voiceover rates on the platform. However, at the stage that I was at in my career, I had to make a decision. My career could go this way, or it could go this way. And I couldn't reconcile a way to keep Fiverr and go the route that I wanted to go. And so one of my mentors was like, you got to make a decision. And I made the decision to get off of Fiverr, and I lost a huge chunk of my revenue. And I worked really hard to make it up in other ways. So understand that the industry is going to probably view you as less of a professional. They're going to view you as somebody who's not a real actor. And this is me just saying what I've heard as it relates to me and the people around me who are on Fiverr and the things that were said to them. They're going to view you as somebody who is a bottom feeder, somebody who's undercutting, somebody who's going against what the union is fighting for. There's a lot of shade being thrown at people that are on Fiverr. I don't think that's going to change because it's easier to cast stones and hate on something instead of actually going out and trying to understand exactly what it is you're hating on and seeing if you can change your point of view. Which leads really nicely into point 4, which is don't lie about being on Fiverr. When I made my account, I used my name, and it was just DJ Dykes. And that was my name on Fiverr, which means that if you Google me, it would come up. Second or third result would be my Fiverr profile. I didn't have a problem with it until I started looking at coastal representation in LA and New York, and also getting a manager and stuff. And I had to be like, oh shit, okay, if they just type my name in, I got this Fiverr account, I know what the perception is. I don't want to be seen as, like I said before, a bottom feeder or non-professional, which is why I told you I had to make that choice. Which way do I want to go with my career? But what you don't want to do is if somebody asks you straight up, especially an agent you're trying to get representation from, if they ask you, hey, what sites are you on? Do not lie and not mention Fiverr. Like, don't try to hide that shit. Tell them straight up, dude, I'm on Fiverr. I started my career on Fiverr. That's how I got started, and I'm just there. It helps pay my bills and stuff. and let the agent make the decision about how they're going to respond to that. In my experience, my very first regional agent asked me what sites I was on, and she's a stickler for trying to maintain standard industry rates. She's a stickler for it. And I told her I was on Fiverr. You know what she told me? She's like, okay, I understand. It's a different world. I get it. But so, yeah, just do you. And that's how it went. Did she like that I was on Fiverr? I don't think so. Did she tell me to get off of Fiverr? No, she didn't. Did she not sign me because I was on Fiverr? No. She still signed me, and I'm still with her today. However, there are some agencies that even have it on their website. If you're on Fiverr, VoiceBunny, VoiceRealm, etc., they won't sign you. Fuck them. Dude, there's hundreds of agencies across the United States. You don't need to be with that one. But the worst thing you can possibly do, I think, is to go to an agent, ask for representation, and they ask you, are you on Fiverr or any of these sites? And you say no. They sign you, and then 3 months later, they find out from their client that, hey, yeah, your talent that we booked for $5,000, we found them on Fiverr, and they're charging $5 for 1,000 words. That's a terrible feeling, and that's a really bad spot to be in because you've essentially burned a bridge. So take that for what it's worth, and that'll lead me neatly into the last point, number 5, do what's best for your business. I said at the beginning of the video, voiceover is a business. You are a small business owner. You are an entrepreneur. You live or die by your ability to secure work and get paid for it. If you can't book work, you can't survive. Your business dies. At the end of the day, everybody has an opinion. I've given several of mine in this video. And I'm just one voice actor out of 196,000 registered voice actors. I think that's the number. It may have changed, but that was the number as of like 2022 or 2023. You are the master of your business. Something that a former coach told me, my very first coach told me. When he was first going into voiceover, he had a goal for himself, which was, I need to make $15 today, or I need to make $100 today. And whatever the thing was, if he makes this per day, he'll have this at the end of the month, he can pay his bills. He had a family to support, and that's what he did. Did he charge industry rates? Probably not. However, he hit his goals almost every month. For the majority of people who are in voice acting, I think that's a really great way to look at your business. You have to do what you have to do to make ends meet. The number of us who are actually going to be the pinnacle and the top of voice actors, and you're with these top agencies and managers, and you're a billboarded name, and dude, that number is so fucking small. If you don't see yourself as wanting to be at the top, you're just trying to do you and run your business the way you want to, and whatever income you get, that's what you get, 6 figures, 2 figures, 1 figure, I don't know. Then you need to diversify. You need to be on all of these sites. You need to be on Voice123 and Voice.com. You need to be on Fiverr and Upwork. You need to be on Mandy. You need to be on Freelancer. You need to put your shingle in as many places as possible. Direct market, production rosters, foreign production companies, agents. You got to diversify. And the way I see it, Fiverr and all of the other platforms are just different ways to diversify your sources of revenue. I miss my revenue from Fiverr. I really do. Even these days, I'm like, man, remember that? That's to my wife. I'm like, damn. However, it's water on the bridge. I move forward. For you, if you are one of those people who is not going to look for the top representation and you want to do your business your way, you do it your way. Because at the end of the day, the only person who has to answer for how your bank account looks when it's time to pay your bills is you. And that person on Reddit or some random agent in a podcast who said, don't ever get on Fiverr, they're not paying your fucking bills, okay? You do what you have to do to support yourself, support your family, and build the kind of career that will sustain itself over the long term. Because in this industry, it is so competitive, and there's a lot of people trying to make it. However, if you listen to too many people's opinions, you'll find yourself making decisions that will inevitably hinder your ability to be the voice actor that you want to be.